Hi everyone, and a warm welcome to lesson 4 of our beginner yoga series. My name's Claudia from Yoga for Everybody, and I'll be taking you through today's practice. In today's class, we're going to continue building our knowledge of the foundation yoga poses. So we'll do a quick recap of the standing postures that we learned in the last lesson. If you remember, they were Tadasana or a mountain pose. We did a warrior 2 to side angle and then also triangle pose. So we will recap on those. And then I'm also going to introduce warrior 1 and chair pose to you today. If you are a complete beginner and you've just stumbled across these videos, I'd recommend that you go back to lesson 1 and do lesson 1, 2 and 3 before you do this video. If you've got some experience of yoga, perhaps you can start with this video if you like, or you can also go back, it's up to you. I won't break down all the poses that we've learned in lessons 1, 2 and 3 today, so if you wanted to recap on those, please go back. The other thing to say is if you do have a couple of blocks or books or something that you can use as props, it might be handy to have them for today's class. But if you haven't got anything that you can use, don't worry about it. I will show you how to customize your poses and modify them without using any props. As always, if you enjoyed today's class, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, maybe give me a follow on Instagram, connect with me on Facebook, give me some comments about this class. I always like to hear feedback from my yogis. And otherwise, I hope you enjoyed today's class. Let's begin. Going to begin standing at the front of our mats in a mountain pose. So we learned this pose last time. If you remember, come to the front of your mats and then separate your feet either about hip width apart, or you can have your big toes to touch, heels slightly apart, whichever variation feels more comfortable for your knees, your hips, your lower back. Just experiment and see what feels best. The key thing to remember is you're planting equally with both feet into the floor, so you're not rolling onto the outer edges of your feet. You're nice and straight, pressing into each 4 corners of your feet. Your knees are relaxed, so you're not locking your knees, but your legs are straight. Your belly is engaged, so your core muscles are working. You're sucking your belly button towards the spine, so you're not just kind of slouching like this. And then the other thing is we're trying to lengthen our tailbone down towards the floor. So instead of sticking a bum out, a lot of the time people have a tendency to stand like that, which is great for the girls to show their bottoms. But what we're trying to do here is release that pressure on the lower back and lengthen it down towards the floor. Your shoulders are nice and relaxed, your ribs are not sticking forwards, and then your arms are by your sides. You can have your palms facing one another, or maybe you can open your palms to face forwards just to open the chest and the shoulders a little bit more. You're gazing directly ahead of you, nice soft gaze, and you can maybe just close your eyes for a couple of breaths and see how that feels in your body today. Notice how you're standing. I immediately start moving and leaning. So it's quite hard to actually stand nice and still, especially with your eyes closed. Just make sure again your neck is nice and relaxed and your face muscles are nice and relaxed. And then see if you can take a deep inhale in through the nose. Fill your lungs and your tummy with air. Feel it traveling down through your body. And then a complete exhale through the nose. Nice and slow. One more time, inhaling in and exhale. One last time, deep inhale in and exhale. And then open your eyes when you're ready. Bring your hands in prayer in front of your chest for a moment and maybe just set an intention for today's practice. You don't have to, but it could be anything you want. We're going to start with a forward fold. So if you've got any blocks or any props, it might be an idea to place them directly in front of you to just help you with placing your hands on the blocks when we start folding forwards. But if you don't have anything, it doesn't matter. So from Tadasana, inhale, lift your arms up and stretch through the fingertips. Maybe follow up with your gaze. Shoulders are nice and relaxed. On an exhale, start folding forward. So we're going to pause halfway. So bring your arms out in front of you and fold about halfway and just pause here for a moment. Stretch forward through the fingertips. You can have a little bend in the knees if you need to. Take a breath in. And on an exhale, continue folding forwards. Place your hands to your thighs, maybe your shins, maybe onto your blocks, maybe fingertips to the floor. Keep a bend in the knees to start with. Deep breathing. Take an inhale. On an exhale, just maybe move your hands to the right side of your mat. Maybe you can move it with the blocks if you're using the blocks. And then inhale. On an exhale, move your hands to the left side of the mat. So fingertips on the floor, or maybe on your blocks, or maybe just on your legs somewhere. Take an inhale, exhale, come back to center. And then maybe see if you can straighten one leg at a time, alternate, pedal your heels down, straightening one leg. And then maybe see if you can start straightening one leg at a time, or working them in the direction of straight. If they don't straighten all the way, doesn't matter, we're just warming up. Place your hands to your hips, keep your back nice and long, and inhale, come all the way up to standing. Straighten the legs. Release your hands and inhale, lift your arms up. One more time, exhale, fold forwards halfway, so pause here. Arms are stretching forwards, stretch through the fingertips, shoulders are relaxed. Little bend in the knees if you need to. Inhale, on an exhale, fold all the way down. Hands to your shins, maybe fingertips to the blocks or the floor, wherever you can reach. On an inhale, we're going to lift the chest off the thighs, make a flat back and look forward. So I'm moving my hands onto my shins, straightening the back, looking forwards, neck is nice and relaxed. On an exhale, fold forwards over your legs, place your fingertips onto the floor. And then you can have your hands to your hips, or if you want to, you can lift your arms up straight away. So on an inhale, we're going to come all the way up to standing. Lift the arms up, stretch. And exhale, hands by your sides. One last time, inhale, lift the arms up. Exhale, start folding forwards. Pause when you get to halfway. You'll notice that you need to really engage your core muscles here. Inhale, stretch through the fingertips, and exhale, fold all the way down, hands to wherever you can reach. Inhale, make a flat back and look forwards. You can use your blocks for this if you want to. Exhale, bend the knees as much as you need to, have your fingertips down onto the mat and step the left leg back. Drop the left knee down onto the mat. Right knee is over your right ankle, and then inhale, lift your arms up for a low lunge. So we'll just pause here for a breath. Keep your left toes tucked, or maybe release them for a deeper stretch. If you're finding this too difficult with your arms up, you can always have your fingertips down onto the floor and stay there. One more breath in. On an exhale, lower your hands down onto the mat. Step your right leg back, so we're in a tabletop position, so shoulders over wrists, hips are over knees. Inhale, arch the spine, look forwards, so cow pose. Exhale, round the back, chin to chest, look down. Inhale, come into a neutral position. Exhale, tuck the toes under, lift your hips up. Our first downward facing dog. So keeping the knees nice and bent to start with. Press into your hands, stretch up with your hips, lift your tailbone up towards the sky. And then maybe drop one heel down at a time, stretching the back of the legs. Remember, you can always drop onto your hands and knees and sit in child's pose for a rest if you need to. On an inhale, look between your hands. We're going to step the feet to the front of the mat. So a couple of big steps or a few little steps, however you need to get there. Bring your feet to the front, keep them about hip width apart. Inhale, hands to your shins or the blocks, make a flat back, look forwards. And exhale, fold forwards. On an inhale, we're coming up all the way to standing, so hands to your hips. Or if you think you can lift your arms up straight away, inhale, come all the way up. Lift your arms up. Exhale, hands by your sides. So we're going to go the opposite way now. So inhale, lift your arms up. Exhale, fold forwards halfway and pause. Inhale here. Exhale, fold all the way down. Inhale, hands to your shins or the blocks, make a flat back, look forwards. Exhale, fold forwards, bend the knees as much as you need to, fingertips to the floor, and take a step back with your right leg. Dropping your right knee down onto the mat, left knee is over your left ankle. When you're ready, inhale and come up for a low lunge. Or like on the other side, if you're finding this too much, if you just want to stay on your fingertips and stretch the front of your right hip this way, there's no reason why you can't do that. Otherwise, come up with me. Deep inhale. Exhale, lower your hands back down onto the mat. Step the left leg back. So we're in tabletop position. Just make sure your alignment is correct. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Inhale, lift your chest forwards, look forwards, arching the spine. Exhale, round the back, chin to chest, look down. Feel this in between your shoulder blades. One of my favorite stretches, this. Inhale, come into a neutral spine. Exhale, tuck the toes, lift the hips up. Downward facing dog. Deep breathing in downward facing dog. On an inhale, you're going to come onto your toes, start bringing your weight forwards until your shoulders are over your wrists, and then drop your knees down onto the mat, keeping the elbows in. We're going to lower our chest and the chin down onto the floor. Release the toes, straighten the legs, hands underneath the shoulders, press firmly down into the mat, and inhale, lift up into a baby cobra. So make sure the elbows are not sticking out, the shoulders are not lifting up, nice and relaxed. Just pause here for a moment. Exhale, lower back down. Using your core strength, see if you can lift back up into our tabletop position. Tuck the toes under, downward facing dog. So take another deep breath here, and then on an exhale, drop your knees down onto the mat. And we're going to step the right foot in between your hands. So if you've got a couple of blocks here, you can use them to help you step your right foot in between your hands. So come into a tabletop position with your hands possibly on the blocks if you've got them. Inhale, stretch your right leg back, and then see if you can lift it off the floor. On an exhale, bend your right knee around the spine, bring your knee towards your chest, and step it through in between your hands. If you don't find stepping your leg through particularly challenging, if you don't feel like you need to drop onto your hands and knees, come back into a downward facing dog. Take an inhale. On an exhale, bring your right knee towards your chest. Round the spine, bring your weight forwards until your shoulders are over your wrists, and step your right foot in between your hands. So we're coming into a runner's lunge. We've done that in our previous lessons. So if your left knee is down, see if you can lift your left knee off the mat. So we're going to prepare for our first warrior one. So making sure your right toes are pointing forwards, your right knee is over your right ankle. Just pause here for a moment. You can also use your blocks and have your hands on the blocks. Press back with your left heel. Just feel the opening in your left, the front of your left hip. Take another breath in. And then what we're going to do is drop the left heel down onto the mat. So your whole foot's now down on the floor. If you need to bring your foot in a little bit to make sure your right knee is over your right ankle still, you can do. Your left toes are pointing sort of towards your left corner of your mat, so roughly about 45 degrees angle. So just get your balance here. Your feet don't have to be in one line, so your right heel doesn't have to be aligned with the arch of your left foot, although a lot of yoga classes teach it that way, but you can bring your left foot out a little bit, especially if you're a complete beginner, just for balance. When you are ready, see if you can bring your hands to your hips and just pause here for a second. And then take an inhale and come up. So first thing first, just check again with your right knee. Make sure it's not gone anywhere. It's directly over your right ankle, and in particular it's not going over your toes. And then gaze back at your left foot and just make sure you're not rolling onto the inner edge of the foot. So you're pressing again equally into all four corners of the foot. Your hips will naturally want to point in the same direction as your left toes, which is absolutely fine if you're a beginner. If your hips are quite tight, just stay here, and with time your flexibility will improve and you'll be able to maybe start gently squaring your hips towards the front edge of the mat. And for some people it will never happen. Depends on your hips, depends on how your body is built. Other people will easily be able to square the hips forwards. Now that could also be quite painful on the left knee, so just be mindful of how that feels. So just experiment and maybe just twist your hips ever so gently and see how that feels. And if it doesn't feel right, back out. And the last thing to add is our arms. So you can continue having your hands to your hips if you're just learning this pose, if you feel like you're a bit steadier in this. And by the way, you can always come out of this, give your legs a shake and come back into it. I appreciate that I'm talking a lot in this pose. If you think that you're ready, see if you can inhale and lift your arms up. Now, make sure your shoulders are not lifting too high up, they're staying nice and relaxed. Fingertips up, maybe gaze up if you've got the balance. If you want to, you can also join your palms together, but if that's too much for the shoulders, just keep your hands apart to start with. And here we are in our warrior one. From here, bring your hands back to your hips when you're ready, and we're going to lower all the way back down, fingertips to the mat. Spin your left heel back up, so we're in a runner's lunge. And then you can drop your left knee down onto the floor and step back into a tabletop position. Or if you want to keep having your left knee lifted, see if you can bring your hands flat to the mat and then lift your right foot off the floor so your right knee is into your chest, and step back into a plank. It's a bit more of an advanced transition, so please feel free to keep having your knees down. And from wherever you are, let's lift the hips back up into a downward facing dog. So So feel free to take a quick break in a child's pose from here. We did hold Warrior One for quite a long time on our right leg. And when you're ready, we're going to try Warrior One on the opposite side. So you can bring your knees down into the tabletop position, hands to your blocks, and step your left foot in between the hands. Or if you want to try it from this downward facing dog, take an inhale. On an exhale, bend the left knee. Bring your knee as close to your chest as possible. Start bringing your weight forwards until your shoulders are over your wrists, and then see if you can step the left foot in between the hands. And again, it will take time, this stepping through, and having your hands on the blocks definitely help. Even if you are in downward facing dog, you can practice this. So you can do this in your own time. So here we are in runner's lunge on the other leg. Left knee is over your left ankle, fingertips to the floor. You're pressing back with your right heel. Just feel the stretch in your right hip here for a moment. Take another breath in. And then see if you can start bringing your right foot down onto the floor. So you're spinning your right toes, so they're pointing towards the right corner of your mat, or round about that way. So your right heel's down on the mat. Left knee is over your left ankle. Press back into your right foot, so you're not rolling onto the inner edge of your right foot. Hands to your hips, and when you're ready, inhale and come up. Warrior One on the left leg. So again, just check in with your alignment. Make sure your knee is still where it should be and it's not falling in, or it's not gone over your toes. Make sure your right foot is where it needs to be. If you need to take a wider stance, you can move it a little bit. So just experiment here. And then again, hips are going in the direction of your right toes. So stay here. If you're a complete beginner, have your hands to your hips. If you feel like it's already quite a big stretch for the front of the right hip, that's absolutely fine. Just breathe and wait for it to happen. It will happen with practice, I promise. And then if you want to, you can maybe gently start squaring the hips towards the front edge of the mat. But like I said, just work at your own level. And if it never happens, so be it. It doesn't matter. As long as you're feeling a good stretch in your right hip and you're doing this pose safely, that's all that matters. If you want to go a bit further, inhale, lift your arms up, stretch through the fingertips. Maybe join the palms together if your shoulders permit. If not, keep your palms and your hands apart. Maybe gaze up. Deep breath in, and on an exhale, start folding forwards, fingertips to the floor. Spin the right heel back up, so we're in runner's lunge. And then we're going to step the left foot back, so entirely up to you how you want to do it. Right knee down, back into tabletop, or hands flat to the floor, bring your left knee towards your chest. Doing some core work as well here, and step back into a plank. And wherever you are, if you're on your hands and knees, see if you can bring your feet back, straighten your legs and come into a full plank, maybe just for a breath. So just again, make sure your shoulders are over your wrists. You're about shoulder width apart with your hands. You're pressing down into your hands, gazing directly ahead of you. You're not sagging with your hips down. You're not lifting your hips up. You're in a nice straight line. Your tailbone is lengthening towards the back of the room. Core muscles are engaged. You can always drop the knees down if you need to. Take an inhale, and on an exhale, press back into a downward facing dog. Take a quick break in a child's pose here if you need to. Otherwise, look between your hands and step your feet to the front of the mat. However you can, a few little steps or a couple of big steps. Take an inhale, hands to your shins or the blocks, make a flat back, look forwards. Exhale, fold forwards. Inhale, hands to your hips or you can lift your arms up straight away. Inhale, come all the way up to standing, lifting the arms up. And exhale, back to our mountain pose. Or you can bring your hands together and pray in front of your chest, Samastitihi. And let's just take a moment here. From here, place your hands onto your hips, and then you can either have your feet hip width apart, which is my personal preference, or you can bring your big toes to Dutch and have your heels but an inch or two apart. We're going to do a chair pose. So a chair pose is literally what it says on the tin. It's like sitting down in a chair. So take an inhale, and on an exhale start bending your knees. So pretend like there's a chair behind you, like you're trying to sit down. So we're not bringing the weight forwards. If you do that and your knees go over your toes, you'll feel a stretch at the back here in your ankles. We don't want that. So we're trying to bring the weight back into the heels, like you would if you had a chair. And then go as deep or as far as you can, sort of without bringing the weight forwards. And you can even lift your toes off the floor to make sure that the weight's in the heels. So you'll notice your thigh muscles are activating already. Place your hand on the belly then and on the lower back, and then engage your core muscles. So really tuck your tummy in and then start lengthening your tailbone down. So we don't want the bum arching, same principle as in Tadasana. We want it lengthening down towards the floor. So take another breath here, and then exhale, come up. We're just going to give the legs a bit of a shake and then add the arms to this pose. So come back to the front of the mat, take an inhale, hands to your hips. On an exhale, start sitting back into a chair pose. So go as far as feels comfortable. With time, you'll build strength and you'll be able to go deeper if you need to. And then on an inhale, see if you can lift your arms up. And again, try and make the shoulders, keep the shoulders relaxed so you're not pressing with your shoulders against your ears. You're stretching forwards and upwards with your fingertips. Your neck is nice and relaxed. You don't need to look up. You can sort of gently tuck your chin towards the chest and continue gazing down. Really good stretch for the lower back this, and also excellent for strengthening the lower body. Deep inhale, on an exhale fold forwards over your bent legs, fingertips to the floor. And then inhale, hands to your shins, start straightening the legs, make a flat back, look forwards. Or if you're using the blocks, hands to the blocks or fingertips to the floor. And then exhale, bend the knees as much as you need to place your hands flat on the floor and take a step back into a plank. Now again, maybe you can hold a full plank this time for a breath or two. If you need to, you can always drop your knees down. Gazing directly ahead of you, just make sure the shoulders are over the wrists. And then drop the knees down, keeping the elbows in. Chest, chin down onto the mat. Straighten the legs, release the toes. And then this time, inhale, lift up either into a baby cobra, so you're just lifting a little bit off the floor. Elbows are pressing into your rib cage. You're pressing down with the tops of your feet. Or maybe see if you can start straightening the arms a bit, so a slightly deeper back bend. But make sure your shoulders are not lifting with you straightening the arms, so you're still keeping the shoulders nice and relaxed. Your elbows are not coming out, they're tucking into your rib cage. Exhale, release, tuck your toes under, press back up into a tabletop position, and then downward facing dog. So we'll link our warrior 1 with warrior 2, side angle and triangle poses now. So when you're ready, we're going to step the right foot in between your hands. You can drop your knees down first, or see if you can take an inhale. On an exhale, bring your right knee towards the chest. Really squeeze it in round the spine, bring your weight forwards until your shoulders are over your wrists. Step your right leg in between your hands.
Drop the left heel down on the mat, so get your alignment correct with the legs. And then inhale, lift your arms up for warrior one. So I'm having to adjust my stance so my right knee is not going over my toes. Take a deep breath in, and then exhale, you're going to open your arms out to the sides and spin your left toes towards the long edge of the mat until we are in warrior two, and you might just need to move your leg back a bit to widen the stance. So again, just make sure right knee is over the right ankle, it's not falling in. Stretching through your fingertips, gazing towards the front of the room. Deep breath in, exhale, right elbow to your right knee, left arm over your left ear, side angle. And if you remember, you can always bring your hand down towards the floor or to the floor if you feel like you need a deeper stretch. But if that means that when you start bringing your hand down, your shoulders are collapsing forwards, it's always better to stay up on the elbow. We're trying to keep our shoulder in line with the hip. One more breath in, and then come back up into warrior two. Just place your hands to your hips for a moment. Bring your left foot in a little bit, toes are slightly in. Straighten the right leg. We're coming for a triangle pose. So inhale, lift your arms out to the sides. Exhale, stretch forwards with your right hand, and then place your right hand down your right leg, left arm up towards the sky, gazing down, or maybe up towards your left fingertips. Belly is engaged, knees are not locked, so make sure you've got a micro bend in your knee. Stretching both sides of the body if you can. And then gaze down, take an inhale and see if you can come back up. Rebend the right leg, circle your hands back down onto the mat, spin the left heel up until we're back in this runner's lunge. And then we're going to step the right leg back either into a plank or drop your left knee and step back into a tabletop position. So we're going to lower down on the mat one more time. If you're feeling strong, see if you can maybe do it from a full plank this time. So same principle, keeping the elbows in, start lowering your body down until your chest and your chin are on the mat. Release the toes and inhale, lift up, baby cobra, or maybe you can start working on straightening the arms. Elbows are in. Exhale, release back down, tuck the toes, and then maybe press up into a tabletop, or if you're feeling strong, maybe a full plank, and then downward facing dog. And we'll do the same combination on the other side. So stepping the left foot in between your hands when you're ready, left knee towards your chest, round the spine, and then bring it forwards. Spin your right heel down onto the floor, right toes are pointing towards sort of the right corner of your top edge of your mat. And when you're ready, lift your arms up, warrior one. So remember, if your hips don't cooperate, if they're not squaring completely towards the short edge of the mat, it's not a big problem. It may come with time, it may never come depending on how you're built. Inhale, on an exhale, open your arms out to the side, spin your right toes towards the long edge of the mat, and then maybe see if you need to adjust the stance in warrior two. Stretching through your arms. Again, just notice how where your shoulders are. You're not kind of tensing, you're trying to stay nice and relaxed, lengthening through your fingertips. Deep breath in and exhale, left elbow to your left knee, right arm over your right ear, side angle. Whichever variation you want, you can grab a block if you want to drop your hand down onto the block. I'm going to stay up on my elbow this time. Maybe you can gaze up towards your right fingertips Again, I'm not finding it comfortable for the neck today, so I'm going to continue gazing down. Inhale, and then exhale, come back up into Warrior Two. Hands to your hips, straighten the left leg and walk your right foot in a little bit. Preparing for triangle pose, so inhale, arms out to the sides, exhale, reach forwards with your left fingertips and then drop your left hand down your left leg wherever you can reach, right fingertips up towards the sky. Again, just pay attention to the knees and see if you can work on lengthening both sides of the body. Maybe gaze up or keep gazing down. Inhale, and then see if you can come back up. Rebend the left knee, circle your hands down onto the mat, spin the right heel up, step back into a plank. And from here, just drop your knees down onto the floor, bring your big toes to touch, and step back onto your heels in child's pose. So you can continue stretching your arms forwards, forehead down into the floor, or maybe arms by your sides, palms facing up, whichever variation works for you. And you can hang out in this child's pose for a few more breaths, get your props and just take a moment, a little break, pause the video, and when you're ready, come back up. And we're just going to do a couple of seated postures to finish off. So straighten your legs out in front of you, just sit back onto your sit bones so your legs are nice and straight. And then keep your left leg straight, bend your right knee, bring it into your chest. And then see if you can step your right foot over your left leg so it's on the outside of your left knee. Bring your left hand on your right knee, right fingertips behind you. Inhale, lengthen the spine, and on an exhale, take a twist to the right. And you can stay here, or if you want to try and twist a little bit deeper, see if you can inhale and lift your left arm up. On an exhale, hook your left elbow over your right knee and just twist a little bit further. One more inhale. And then exhale, release. Straighten the right leg and we'll switch sides. So bend your left knee into your chest and then place your left foot on the outside of your right knee. Right hand to your left knee, left fingertips behind you. Inhale, on an exhale, take a twist to the left. And again, stay here. This is a good stretch for the spine, but I also feel it in my left hip flexor. If you want to go a little bit deeper, inhale, lift your right arm up. On an exhale, hook your right elbow over the left knee and twist a little bit further. One more deep breath in, and then exhale, release. Straighten the left leg, maybe give your legs a bit of a shake. And from here, we're just going to lie down on the floor, so maybe lower yourself down with control in our final relaxation pose, Shavasana. So straighten the legs, let your feet fall out, have your arms by your sides, palms facing up. Close your eyes and try and return to a natural rhythm of your breath. And just work your way up from your toes to the crown of your head. Make sure everything's nice and relaxed. You're not tensing any part of the body. Your feet, your legs, your tummy, your back, your arms, your neck, your head, your face, everything is nice and relaxed. And please stay in this Shavasana for a few more minutes if you've got the time, And then when you're ready, roll onto your side and come back into a seated position, either with your legs crossed or on your heels, whatever works for you, but please stay lying down if you've got the time. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this class. Do give me some feedback and some comments. And otherwise, have a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.